Thoughts on Trump? Just you can say whatever
Well,
you want.
it's complicated. Yeah. No, it's not very complicated at all. If that motherfucker died today,
We go. Now we have
yeah,
face. That's good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, pleasure. First time encountering. Pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Yeah, man.
I would have hoped it would have been done under wildly different circumstances, but here we are. Here we are.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. I get it. It's a wild situation, like wild scenario.
So, let me get your first thoughts here. What are your thoughts about the entire situation right now? Where are you at?
Uh, I think people's reactions make sense. I mean, when you think about it, like I'm effectively a blank slate. Like when it comes to political leanings, political stances, like people don't really know where I stand. Truth to tell, I mean, I've actively made it that way, right? Like I've actively driven to make sure I don't really bring personal politics into the videos. Because I mean, I guess maybe I could, if I'm just like, oh, guys, we're covering absolute Batman, like, Batman is fighting these guys, like white supremacists, in the Absolute Batman Annual, and that's why ICE and Donald Trump are bad. Like I could do that, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, to me, I guess the way that I run it is that, I mean, me and you and people in general deal with politics 23 and a half hours a day, right? Whether they're dreaming about it, living it, whatever. So yeah, if I can spare people dealing with all that bullshit for 30 minutes, yeah, I'll happily do that.
I
But I'll
believe
do that
it's
with a
the
smile on my face.
I think it's the ambiguity that leaves people turning against you. Main so the I would say the tribal mentality of it all is a little bit disparaging, right? I'm
I mean,
sure you hate it, right? You hate it, yes.
I don't know if I would chalk it all up to tribal mentality. I mean, there's certainly some individuals out there who are just like, oh, Comics Explained has controversy, right? Let's get the clicks. But I think there's some people out there that are legitimately like, I mean, I'm a huge fan. Like, how much of this is true, right? Like, where does this guy stand in it all? So yeah, if you run a YouTube channel, and you don't really make your personal politics known, nobody really knows where you stand. And then somebody fires up a video and they start accusing you of racism, then I mean, where's the evidence to say it's not true?
True,
There
true,
really isn't
true.
anything for anybody to point. There's no video for anybody to pull up, on the Comics Explained channel where they say, "Well, here's where Rob lines out his political views." So like, clearly that's not true. That doesn't exist. So yeah.
Do you enjoy the ambiguity?
To a degree, I mean, the reality here is like we're living in extreme times, so extreme times make extreme sides, right? Um, I enjoy the ambiguity in so much that I'm not the focus of the channel. Like the focus of the channel is the comic. Um, but I enjoy the ambiguity in the sense that when you leave politics out of it, what's there to fight over besides a story, right? Politics are like a lose-lose situation, especially in this day and age. So.
I think I think a bigger issue a lot of people have is the fact that the medium in which you choose to talk about, which is comics. And I think I've watched you for the better part of 3, 4 years on long commutes. Your voice is in my car because you're great at explaining the comics. And by all means, I don't want to pay for them. So I just like I just have you
I mean, that's
explain it.
not the goal, but okay.
I mean, I know it's not the goal. You're supporting. Obviously, you want people to buy the comics and support the creators, things of that variety.
Yeah.
But as as a black man in Detroit, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna pay for these things. Anyways, but that's where I'm
Fair
at.
enough.
I think
Fair
it's
enough.
your space, the space you're entering with the comic books in general is, and it's gonna sound psychotic, a little bit political. It's a little political because comics have always been a
Oh, they're
medium.
100%. Oh, they're
Yeah.
100% political. I mean,
So
comics are absolutely political. Okay, so here's a really good example. It's the one that I always cite whenever people talk about, politics and comic books. God Loves Man Kills, right? Like, God Loves Man Kills is one of the most important X-Men comics of all time. And usually whenever people ask, what's your favorite X-Men storyline? Then it's like, if we're talking about like grandiosity and just a bunch of crazy shit happening, then like House of M, right? But if we're talking about like your single favorite storyline, oh, it's God Loves Man Kills. Because God Loves Man Kills centers on the story of a religious fanatic. Like William Stryker convinced himself it's his mission from God to kill mutants. There's no one told him to. The one above all didn't come down and say, hey, William Stryker, man, like, will you kill mutants for me? Right? He just convinced himself that it was true. Um, and there's a point in that story when Kitty Pryde is talking to a friend of hers named Frankie. And Frankie, being a black woman, right? You know, there's somebody who runs up on Kitty Pryde, starts calling her a mutie, and then calls Frankie like a mutie lover. You know, and Frankie's like, oh, you know, you gotta let that kind of stuff go. You gotta let that kind of stuff go. And Kitty Pryde looks at Frankie and was like, would you say the same thing if he called me an N-word lover? Right. So like, you know, how and like the whole word's there for you to see. You know, and despite all the religious fervor and all that kind of stuff, the story doesn't end with some great big huge fight. The story ends with Cyclops debating William Stryker, and then backing him into a corner. And then William Stryker like pulls a gun, I think, and like shoots a Cyclops or something like a shot, you know, a cop shoots William Stryker and like the guy goes to jail. You know, but like, yeah, it's very much a political story. So yeah, comic books are 100% political. Yeah.
So what happens a lot of the time is, in the face of absence, people will fill the void with what they want to believe, and I this is gonna sound psychotic. I think because you don't make an direct oppositional stance towards something they believe in, they are going to assume you believe the exact opposite immediately. If you say, "Oh yeah, you know, I like mutants, but," and then you say the but, and the but comes in, boom, and then people are gonna say, "Oh, okay, so you like Sentinels, eh?" Like, no, 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 I don't like Sentinels. It's just, oh, but I saw you, you follow the guy who made Sentinels. Yeah, but that's because I'm curious about the technology behind it. Nah, nah, you.
Well, I mean, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, I mean, let's get to the meat and potatoes of it,
Yeah.
right? Like you know, something that you pointed out, you know, in your video yesterday, and that's the reason why I talked to you because you seem like one of the few people who wouldn't immediately just be like open up, like, so Rob, why are you racist? You know, like, yeah, who wouldn't like immediately reject me? And I completely get, right? I mean, there are some people who are just kind of who have already made up their mind, right? And I'm not going to try to convince people who've already made up their mind. Hopefully, they change their mind, yeah, but I'm not going to go out of the way to convince them. But I mean, let's literally address the thing directly, right? Like, Ernie described critical drinker and nerdrotic as white supremacists. I don't know that I would define them as white supremacists because I'm not aware of them advocating for like black people losing their rights. You know, for like us being, you know, being sent back to the 60s, you know, like black people, you can use these bathrooms and white people, you can use these bathrooms. Now, are there certainly like racist connotations to their videos? Yeah. And like, do some of them contain racist sentiment? Sure. You can't stand up and say, I don't like that Sam Wilson is Captain America, and then say nothing when Barry Allen replaces Wally West, right? Or Wally West replaces Barry, you know, post-crisis. You know, like, you know, if your position is, I don't like it when classic characters get replaced with new ones, then you don't get to pick and choose based on race. And even if they're not actually racist, it comes across that way. Having said that, I'm not really sure where people are getting the idea that like I watch their videos and subscribe to their channels and all that kind of stuff. I just follow them on Twitter. Right? I've never seen a video from Critical Drinker or Nerdrotic, and I'm certainly not subscribed to their channels. One of the things that you pointed out, and it was a really interesting point, you know, one of the things you pointed out is you said, well, simply following them on social media is an endorsement. And I don't know if I agree with that statement because to me, following them on social media is no different than me watching CNN and Fox News, right? Like, to me, endorsing those guys would be if I gave them a platform, if I retweeted the things they said, and if I liked the things they said, if I pushed my audience to them and said, guys, you 100% need to check these content creators out. You know, Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic have their finger on the pulse of it all. You know, if I were saying things like that, sure. But I've never talked to them. I've never interacted with them in a meaningful way, right? Like it's, you know, I simply just follow them on Twitter. And somehow or another, you know, that's just kind of been turned into, well, Rob is perfectly content, you know, with like racially motivated opinions. And I think to a degree, this is where the kind of tribal mentality comes into play, right? Like you can agree with a person's point without agreeing for the reason behind it, right? So, for example, like Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic came along, and they're avidly against Sam Wilson being Captain America, right? And they'll come along and they'll say, you know, Captain America: Brave New World sucked, right? That movie was just very poorly received and it was very done. because Sam Wilson is Captain America. Okay, I can agree with the fact that the movie was poorly done. I can agree with the fact that it didn't perform well at the box office. And then I can reject the reasoning, which is that it's because Sam Wilson is Captain America. No, that's not really the reasoning at all. It was just a really shitty movie with a really shitty plot, right? That's why the movie performed poorly. Um,
Okay, so
you know,
you don't watch their content. Do they give this take on Twitter?
Yeah, it's just things that I've seen on Twitter, right?
Okay,
Just scrolling through
all
the
right.
feeds and whatnot.
Because
Yeah,
what
no,
I'm
I've never watched the videos. That's why I say, like, I don't really know where people got that idea from. I don't know if it's just someone out there was just like, and he watches their videos, and people are like, yes, we have no evidence that it's true, but we will assume that it is, and just
here
go
goes
forward
the
from there.
bigger issue here, right? It's obviously impossible to argue with an ideology because you're never talking to a person. You're talking to a structure that has already decided its conclusions before you open your mouth. You are arguing against a bulk mass of beliefs on top of each other. Now, with Neurotic and Critical Drinker, they have the same kind of adjacent viewpoints towards the things. They're going to make rage biddy titles. They're going to grift. They're going to get that money because a lot of people feel alienated because they're not allowed to be racist. Back in the day, think of any truly white friendship you've ever had in your life, right? If you think about it, the way how good the racism is in the friendship determines how good the friendship is. Oh, he lets me say the N word. He's fun. He's cool. He's base. He's a cool guy. And it's those kind of people that feel alienated in these spaces. And when you and I want to go back to when you said, I think following them doesn't endorse them. Now, I will give you 20% of that. I will give you the fact that people are stupid. Me and you both know the average person is an idiot. We deal with hundreds of thousands of people every single day. Like, we can attest to that. Even it doesn't matter who sees this video, they know that the average person, I'm not talking about you, dear viewer, the other average person is an idiot. They're going to see you follow somebody and they're going to say, well, if this big guy's following them, they must have something to do. And that's going to cause somebody who would otherwise never interact with this person because they love you. They're going to interact with the person. And then they're going to get indoctrinated into those view sets and mindsets. And they're going to say, well, I don't agree with what they're saying, but, Rob's following them. And, Rob taught me about, the fucking Hal Jordan. And I love Hal Jordan. And then because people have very simple mindsets because they want the people they like to be like them. So it comes into that mindset of with that great power you have, with that 2 million base, that 2 million follower base, people are going to want to have the same beliefs as you. And they're going to want to know how you feel about, I don't know, Trump or ICE or something of that variety. And when you leave it ambiguous, they're going to say, well, he obviously doesn't talk about it, so he must be on the other side. And that's where people are having the bigger issue at and calling you this Uncle Tom-esque character.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not a Trump supporter.
That's great. I'm happy.
Right,
First
and
here, guys.
obviously I am
First
not a
here.
fan of it. Okay, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I guess people don't really know that. Because I've really tweeted out and just been like, I stand against ICE. I mean, sure. Like my guy, I got brown skin. Like the Supreme Court of the United States and Clarence Thomas, who doesn't know he's black, like they literally ruled that guys like me are a problem because I don't have skin color like them. Okay, whatever, right? So I'm clearly not a fan of ICE. Um, and I'll kind of circle back around to that a little bit because I think I think a lot of what you see on social media with so much outrage, I think stems from a sense of powerlessness, right? People just don't know what they can do, right? And so they just do whatever they feel like they can do, and sometimes I think it's justified, sometimes it's not, but um, to your point about the idea that people come along and they say, well, I'm a huge fan of Comics Explained, and Comics Explained follows this guy. So clearly this guy is worth following. Honestly, man, I get what you're saying, but I think that drastically underestimates the people's ability to decide things on their own. Um, yeah, no, I think it, dude, I think it drastically I think the idea that people would just blindly, follow people that I follow, and just assume I am fans of them because I follow them. I understand that, but I think it removes that person's agency and that person's ability to sit down and say, okay, but do I like them? Like, do
Well,
I enjoy the content they make?
that's a great point, but I'd like to offer an immediate counterpoint of the average person. I'm talking about 51% of the population. Let's say 51%. they're going to get their opinions from a 30-second reel or some unverified TikTok. They're not going to sit in silence and actually think with things because of the overstimulation of the current populace and how things operate. That is the current day and age we live in. And we can't ignore that factor when it comes to actually talking about how the brain has metastasized itself into these disgusting metrics of getting things algorithmically fed. Majority of my audience is not my audience. They come from my new videos and some of my drama content, some of my political takes, but they don't watch my past videos because my subscriber base, my number is worthless because they're there for a specific kind of thing because the algorithm fed it to them. The average person is not thinking deeply for themselves. They're trying to get a better version of the thoughts they want to have. That's what's happening.
I mean, on some level, you're right. I mean, that's not really arguable, right? Like in the 90s, moderates were a much larger percent than they are now, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
political leanings are on they're like political, I mean, if we're talking politics here, right? Political leanings are on a bell curve, right? Like once upon a time, most people were in the mean, right? Like you got the fringe here, you got the fringe here, right? The right and the left. And most people were just right here, somewhere in the middle, right? And over the years, that bell curve is flattened because people have moved, you know, further sides. Um, but again, I think a lot of that kind of feeds into what you're seeing right now with like extreme takes, right? Extreme views. And people believing that everybody on that side believes in anything. For example, you ever heard of a rhino?
A rhino? No, I don't know what that is.
Not the animal. Okay, so do you remember the Tea Party? Remember like the Tea Party movement back in the 2000s?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Tea Party movement, an ultra conservative ground roots movement. Then you had like traditional Republicans, guys like John McCain, I think. Rhino means Republican in name only. So the idea was like you call yourself a Republican, but you don't believe what we believe as this part of the Republican Party. Therefore, you're not really a Republican. Those guys exist, right? Where they're like, we follow Republican belief systems, but we do not believe that ICE should be rounding people up based on skin color. You know, we don't support Donald Trump. Um,
Are you a
Now, how those
rhino?
guys fit in, and no,
I
not at
was about
all.
to say, I just have to
No, no,
ask. I was
no,
curious.
no. I very much. I mean, I would not call myself a political expert, but I very much enjoy like talking about politics. Like I was born and raised in that, right? I can't tell you how often like dad and grandpa would go back and forth about politics.
Yeah, you're like what,
But
like
to the
you're like what, 41 maybe?
yeah, 41, 41. Yeah,
Okay.
that's why like mudslinging and all that kind of stuff. Like, because don't get me wrong, like when I first saw Ernie's video, like I was pissed, like I was incensed. And there was a time when I would have clapped back like that, and probably called him every name but a child of God, But as I've grown older, right, as you get older, you grow a little bit wiser, and you kind of start to realize, when it comes to mudsling, when it comes to things like that, you're going to have a subsect of people who are interested in hearing what you have to say, and you're going to have a subsect of people who are going to make up their minds, before you even speak, and I'm not going to speculate on who does what or what content creators believe what, it's not really relevant to me, but just kind of sitting down and just kind of letting it sit, for a while, for like a few days, then it's kind of like, okay, like calm down and chill, and go from there. But yeah, I'm sorry, to the bigger point that you're making, right? The idea or that you were pointing out, the idea that people would look at the people that I follow and then just blindly support them, right? Giving no thought to what they stand for. I think that underestimates
I
people's agency.
I don't
I mean,
think
they're
I don't think it's gonna be like they're gonna go over there and say, "Oh, Rob supports this." I think it's gonna be the average person, the normal guy who isn't an extremist, right? Because I'd say, let's be realistic here, 5%. 5% of all Americans are arguing on Twitter, and that's maybe 7 million people. So if someone sees a tweet has 2 million likes and it's an average person who's not an extremist, they're going to think everybody thinks like that because 2 million is a big number because people can't fathom big numbers. So they're going to see you with 2 million. They're going to see the people that are 2 million extremists, and they're going to say, well, everybody must think like this. So they're seeing nothing but extremist takes. They're on my comments. There are people calling me a shill, an enlightened centrist. They're saying, I don't like trans people. I'm like, where'd you get this from? It's crazy. And they're attacking me. And I get like hate messages every day for stuff I say naturally. That's what it takes to be a content creator. That's life. What is happening is the average person is seeing you follow neurotic and the critical drinker, and the average person is going to see that the critical drinker drinker is they're not even going to look at the video. They're going to look at the thumbnails and say, oh, this black woman woke. And they're going to go to neurotics videos. If you go to neurotics page right now, first thing is woke is broke or something of that variety. And then they're not going to watch your content. They're going to look at the thumbnails because we're in a headline centric thing. And I'm not taking away their personal agency. I'm actually giving them insane personal agency because they made the decision already. That's their personal agency based on the headline. You're giving people insane credit by saying they do the research and go further, but they just wouldn't. I don't think they would.
Mm, yeah, I don't agree with that. I mean, to the point about people seeing that, like number one, nobody even knew that I followed them.
True, I
It
had no
was,
clue.
it's a funny thing, because people were just like, Rob's been following Nerdrotic, for years and years and years and years, and it's like that's actually not true, right? Like the way that Twitter follows work, right, is that the longer you follow someone, the lower down they appear, and so if you were to go to my Twitter page, right, and you were to pull up the people that I follow. And you start scrolling down, right? The first person that you would see, just as a frame of reference, matter of fact, like I'll pull up my Twitter page myself. The first person that you would see, it's somebody that I followed the other day from a Twitter space, because he was like, "Hey man, like if you're down for doing Twitter spaces again, let me know." But yeah, if you click on followers, people that I follow, the first person will be Leo Millie, I think. And then if you start scrolling down, right, you're going to see Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic, right? And if you just keep going, there's a ton of people under them. So me following them is a relatively new thing, right? Within the last 6 months or so. Um,
What changed in the past six
so
months? Are you just trying to get curious on their mindsets on things, or what happened?
yeah, well, look, honestly, it's all this bullshit out here, right? Like it is, dude. It's no, it's. I mean, let's be honest, man. Like
Yeah.
41 years old, I've been alive. I don't think I've ever seen it this bad. Like, I really don't think I've ever seen polarization this bad. Now, granted, social media amplifies, right? And you're not wrong about saying we live in like a headline era, right? And these quick little beats, where somebody uploads a 30-second video, which is why I think it was doubly important not to promote the things they say, right? And not to tell people, yeah, go check out this video and decide for yourself. If no, 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 yeah, that's not something that I'm cool with. Um, but most people had no clue that I followed them. It wasn't even within the last day or so that people actually found out. Um, Now, how they feel about that, is entirely based on their opinions, of a combination of me and a combination of those guys. And again, the political ambiguity kind of feeds into it. But yeah, I still stick by the idea that, if for some reason people started going through my followers, right, and we're like, you know what, I'm going to look up every single person Rob follows, and I'm going to decide whether or not I agree with every single person Rob follows, and I'm just going to assume he likes them because he follows them, and go from there. And in that way, I can see where you're coming from, and saying, people say, well, Rob follows Critical Drinker, Nerdrotic, so clearly he agrees with what they say. And that's why, when I made that Twitter video, like I wanted to make it clear, like I do not respect them and I do not like them. Like I do not follow them because I agree with their belief system at all. I follow them because they're on the other side. And I firmly believe it's important to understand what the other side says. So, yeah.
No, you're on the. I would say you're correct in that front, but here goes my question: is it just to understand to for what purpose? What is the end goal of understanding them? Because if you just want to understand what they're saying, then you need look no further than the wild nonsense that Pam Bondi or Trump is saying. You need look no further than the rage bait economy of what it is to grift, because it is the same regurgitated talking points over and over again. And you could have that critical analysis of the left saying, well, everybody deserves this and everybody deserves that, when it's just the same regurgitated talking points. What specifically are you gaining and what are you doing going forward? Are you just gaining it for your own benefit, or are you doing something with your objectively massive platform to do something about this? What is the end goal?
Like, when you say to do something about this, are you saying like speaking out against them? Like, am I building some kind of a case against them? Like, is
No,
that
no, no. I don't want you to become a drama channel, man.
no?
I'm
I have
asking.
no interest in doing that.
Yeah, obviously you're making comic books. Obviously, no one wants to do this drama garbage. It's absolutely
Yeah.
depressing. I'm just asking. It is depressing. I'm actually asking. I don't think you're gonna talk to these people, are you? Like, if you talk to them, that's fine. It's your own prerogative. But what,
No,
like,
no, I have, no, I've never talked to them. I
yeah,
have no intention to,
are you
you know.
just because you can follow, so you can just look at their stuff without following? I need I understand your reasoning behind it, but like,
Oh,
what's like a direct reason? Like, what's the why?
because it was the only way to really see what it is that they say. I mean, sure, I could go out of my way and type in and see what they say,
Yeah.
or to type in their names and search for it. But 90% of my Twitter feed is just Trump bullshit.
Why
I don't know why,
is
but
actually, you know what? I'm not even
dude,
gonna chastise you on that because that is my Twitter
no,
feed too. That is my Twitter
bro,
feed
no,
too.
because
It's
somebody on Twitter made a really good point. Like, and I didn't even think about it until I saw it. They were like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, can I say the F word on here?
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, yeah. They're like, I don't know what the fuck is going on with Twitter's algorithm, but they were like, it's almost like you see a post, you stare at it for more than 10 seconds, and that becomes your Twitter feed, right? And sure, like I pay attention to what the president of the United States says, not because I like him, but because when he comes out and says, like, I agree with this, that shit affects the whole nation, right? So I mean, it's just like, like Pam Bondi, go do this shit, right? And okay, Donald Trump, I'll just do whatever you tell me to, and Supreme Court will bend the knee, right? And Donald, or it's just but nonetheless, right? I digress.
That's
You
valid.
know, yeah,
I gotta ask
but
Noah. Go ahead.
then in particular, I pay attention to them because they are in my space, right? They are in the
Comic
nerd
space,
comic book
yeah.
space. Yeah, they're in the the nerd comic book space. And again, it's one of the things that I said before. One of the most important things for me, when it comes to political perspectives, is to by every measure possible, to avoid confirmation bias and groupthink, right? And that's why I say, if I sit down and they tweet out something, and they're like, okay, so like a good example of this. So if I remember correctly, like I was on Reddit at some point, um, and somebody it's like was posting up a Twitter shot, like on like Reddit when they post it up and there's like this person posted on Twitter, like they
Yeah.
show like the person on Twitter and they show them. I mean, yeah. So it was like Nerdrotic or one of those guys, and I don't know if it was them specifically. It was like that side, right? And it was the whole idea of She-Hulk, right? I don't know if you remember that meme where she's like yelling at Bruce Banner, like all the
I'm
things that she's
angry
upset about,
every
and
day of my life. I have to
yeah,
control my
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. There was this meme that was circulating around for a little while that was like pushed by that side, where it's like Bruce Banner, his dad killed his mom and his dad beat him up and he's like been chased by the government all the time. And She-Hulk's like, I get catcalled sometimes, And it was clearly like this argument being created by that side, which was like, that's unnecessary, that's stupid, right? Like, this is why we don't need women in those movies, and for me, it wasn't even a question of like, do we need women in more prominent roles? I mean, yeah, absolutely. Women-led superhero movies are dope. If that wasn't true, Captain Marvel would not have made $1 billion, right? Like people, yeah, the plots of the movies need to be good, But for the point that they were making, it did raise the question: was it well handled, right? Like, was that scene in She-Hulk a well done scene? And if I didn't think it was, then how would I have handled it differently? In which case, yeah, like I definitely would have handled that scene differently. But that's not a train of thought that I would have gone down if I hadn't, seen what that side had to say.
Well,
So,
that's interesting. That's a very interesting point you bring up because it goes on the point of thinking deeper when it comes to certain narratives. And I will admit, if they are asking the very difficult questions of, man, this property was horrible, but you're taking half the question. Like you're taking about half the question. This is I am not a centrist. I gotta get this point for anybody watching in the future. I'm not a centrist. When it comes to questions in that variety, because when I was hanging out in Knockemstiff, Ohio, I was stuck there for 2 months. They asked really good questions. They said, "Well, why are black people always killing our black people?" And I never thought about it because I was a Crip. I was like, "That's a great question." I never even considered that. But the origin of the question came from racism. It's not as if they're
yes,
genuinely curious of the matter of fact of the systemic thing in Reaganomics and the fact the crack epidemic and no, they're not. They're just saying, "Why do you guys like being violent?" That's the basis of their question. And when it comes
no,
to Neurotic and Critical Drinker, you can get to that analysis point without the racist connotation. So there's no, in my opinion, there's no real directive to follow these people to get those questions because other people can't ask those questions without the racism attached to it or the
sure. But
sexism.
all those, honestly, when it comes to that side,
Mm.
I never see that. Like, I've never seen a person on that side ask the question or make the statement, Captain America Brave New World was bad. and not invoke racial connotations to it. I've never experienced that. Like, there's always some measure of racial connotation, but that's why I say, guys like that are going to be exceedingly outspoken when it comes to minority superheroes. They're going to be exceedingly outspoken when it comes to women in prominent positions, because they're the far right of the comic book YouTube scene, or not really comic book YouTube scene, but the comic movie, scene.
If I may be so
And
bold, I think that this is gonna sound crazy. I think they're probably the average person when it comes to comic consumption.
you think so?
Yeah, I've been in the I'm like 30. I'm 10 years younger, and I have been in the comic scene for quite some time, and they have been horrifically racist. I'm not even gonna keep. I'm keeping it a stack with you. Ever been to a game store?
I don't know, man. Like, I mean, I've been to a lot of cons. I've met a lot of faces. I've come across a lot of fans. I have never come across a fan that feels racist in that way.
Really?
Now, maybe it's because I'm Comics Explained, right? And so maybe it's because they're just like all they want to focus on is being fans, right? I wholly admit that's entirely possible.
Mm.
But anytime I've ever seen racism spewed in that direction, it usually stems from the online scene, right? Because when you talk about anonymity, right, you're just, you're a person on the other side of the world that they're probably never going to meet, other side of the country they're never going to meet. I mean, it's very easy to get away with that kind of stuff, especially if you keep your face hidden. But, like I said, there's 100% racial undertones to the things they say.
Have
And
you
it's not that I listen to them because do what?
have you this is a strategy that I do sometimes. Have you ever just allowed them to say racist things and see what they do with it? Have you ever just let it like let's say you're at a comic book store for instance, right? And you bring up and say, "Man, there's not a lot of black superheroes." And then they say, "Well, that's because, the average guy is white." And you say, "Okay, that's fair. As a matter of fact, there shouldn't be that many black superheroes because it goes to the common day American." And then wait for their response. Have you ever done anything of that variety, or you just steer clear
I've
of?
never experienced that. I've never been in a
Really?
comic book store. Yeah, I've never been in a comic book store and heard somebody complain about how there's too many black superheroes. I've never experienced that
No,
in
I
my whole
mean,
life.
me. I'm the one saying there's not enough, and somebody is stating that there should be. It has always been white people. It should still be white people. That's never happened to you, not once. You ever play D&D with a group of white guys?
No, I'm not a D&D guy.
Okay, man, you ever encountered the Warhammer space ever? I don't know.
No, I've never
Never.
gotten into Warhammer. Yeah, I've never done
Okay,
Warhammer.
you're like
I'm
only
aware of it.
comics. You're like only
Yeah,
DC Marvel.
well, that and yeah, some indie and then video games. I mean, don't get me wrong, dude. I used to play Modern Warfare 2 back in the day. Believe me, I've
Okay,
encountered
that's
my fair share
racism
of
right there.
racism.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I've encountered my fair share of racism. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but yeah, no, I've never been in a comic book store and just been walking through looking to buy a comic book and just out of my ear, I hear like this guy over here, like there's not enough black comic book superheroes, and the guy next to him is like, actually, I feel like there's too many. I've never seen, I have never seen that happen in my entire life. Have you had that happen?
Yeah, okay, man. I'm in Detroit and I've seen it. This is like 70%. I don't know, niggas. I don't know what
I
to
mean,
tell you.
I don't know, man. Like I lived in Kentucky for 22 years,
That's
and
racism
I never,
central.
yeah. Well, outside of Lexington and Louisville, has a very high black population. And Lexington's ultra progressive, right? They elected like an openly gay mayor, right? Mayor Gray. But one dude, once you start getting out, let me tell you a story. So my former supervisor, hit up myself and Mariah when we lived in Columbus, and was like, "Hey man, there's a comic auction happening down in Eastern Kentucky." Because he follows like online auction, shops, things like that, and sometimes they have them in like local towns. And when I say Eastern Kentucky, my guy, like I'm talking about like in the holler, right? Like so, but at the same time, man, I'm seeing shit like the first 30 issues of X-Men Volume 2, issue number 1, right, in mint condition, like Spawn number 1, right? And so I'm just kind of like, ah. So like we drive down there, man. Dude, I took the fucking pistol. Right. And like when we were down there, man, like there were folks who were looking like there was a restaurant we went into and there were like these white guys sitting at a table who were looking at us funny, like, what the fuck are you doing in here? Right. Like your kind's not welcome around here. And dude, like when you experience something like that, like I'm not talking about, a cop racially profiles you, which can be equally terrifying, but like when you're out in the holler like that, right, where that like depending on what kind of town you're in, it's not just the townspeople, it's the sheriff, people like that would come for you, it'll send a very sudden chill down your spine, right? And yeah, that's why I'm glad I brought that pistol, man.
No,
But
that's smart. That's smart
it's
because
dude, it's some creepy shit. So yeah, I've certainly encountered my fair share of racism in my life, but yeah, no, to your point, I've never been. Most comic book fans that I have come across, that I have met, are either socially awkward as hell,
that's
right?
fair.
Which is kind
Yeah.
of adorable. I think it's kind of a funny thing. Or they are folks that just want to read comics and enjoy comics, and they don't really care about the politics of it all, right? They deal with politics every day, and they just want to ignore it. Or I wouldn't say ignore it. Take
So
a break from it,
you feel
So
yourself to be a veil of escapism for the common man, I imagine. Yes.
yeah, I mean, I take pride in that. Right? Like, I take pride in the idea, that my channel gives the ability for people to escape comic books. But that's why I also fired that second video up on Twitter. When I told people, hey, just because I don't talk about politics does not mean I'm oblivious to it, right? And it does not mean that I ignore it, right? Or that I don't have my own political stances. I mean, there's clearly lines in the sand, right?
Yeah.
Like, while I do think it's important to understand both sides, I'm not going to go to a fucking Klan rally to understand what they believe. Fuck all that noise, right? I'm not going to
Yes.
go to a. I'm not going.
Sadly, that's what I did.
Yeah. Are you, dude? You
Oh,
really?
oh yeah, I was in Knockemstiff,
Why, dude?
Ohio.
Dude,
That's a
why, dude?
yeah.
Why the fuck would you go to a Klan rally?
Oh,
Like, you don't need to. No.
I know. Let me explain. I saw Daryl Davis do it, and I was thinking to myself, I'm a pretty charismatic guy. I was young. I was like 22, and I said, you know what? I got nothing better to do. So I was in Knockemstiff with my friend, and his dad was a Grand Wizard. I didn't know that. No one told me that. I didn't really get that information. He had a card. He had a
His
clan card.
dad was a Grand Wizard.
Yeah, like a leader of the chapters and stuff like that. And his mom was a Cyclops.
Jesus.
And people don't know what a
I have no
Cyclops is.
clue what it. I have no idea what a Cyclops is.
Cyclops is a recruiter for the KKK. They recruit people. That's what they do. They eye people out. That's why they're called a
Oh,
Cyclops. So
Jesus.
I was there and I got my ribs broken, my fingers crushed, almost got hung. But I still spoke to them, and this is the only reason they liked me. I was in a bar, and I was singing "Ain't No Rest for the Wicked," the Borderlands 1 intro, and they said, "Boy, you got some vocals to you," and we sang all night, and they realized that, and they said this exactly as
Uh,
they said it.
all right,
Um,
look, man. Like, I love you to death, man. But ideologically,
yeah, I should have died.
fuck that noise. Like,
Yeah,
fuck
yeah,
that noise.
and
Like,
I'm happy
it's
you
it's one.
agree that you
Dude,
shouldn't do that.
it's one thing when somebody comes along and complains about Sam Wilson being Captain America because he's a black guy.
Yeah.
It's another when you're talking about a group of people who were like, we need to like get rid of black people, or we need to strip away their rights, or something like that's a whole different discussion, my
Oh,
dude. Like
100%.
that's yeah,
But you got to
yeah,
grasp this,
that's
right? The reason I did it was to get them to stop being Klansmen. And guess what happened? I shut down the chapter. There is no KKK Klansman chapter
uh,
in the entire town of Knockemstiff because of the efforts I spent during that 2 month tenure. Did I get destroyed? Was it dangerous? Should anyone do it? Never do it. It was dangerous. I did get destroyed.
yeah, I would, yeah, when you're talking about people who are calling for the harm of other people based on their skin color, that's where I draw the line.
And I'm
Like,
happy.
you
I'm
and I are,
happy now. Everybody
yeah,
knows this now. That's good. That's good, and that's fair. No one
yeah,
should ever do what I do. You are
yeah,
smart to
no,
avoid that at all costs. And a lot of people
yeah.
think you are somebody that would just, they're calling you a nocturnal mammal is what they're calling you. That's what
I mean, dude, I don't really give a shit.
I know. I'm because
But
you responded to
it's
Blur Without Fear on the message really aggressively, and people were carpeting on that when you told them to f off, which was people were
oh, okay.
harping on that. Yeah.
So let's talk about that, right? So one of the things that Blurred pointed out in his video is like, I think Rob was coming to me from a place of hurt. Yeah, right. Me and Ernie were never like, we were never friends, right? Like, if I were going to a con and Ernie happened to be there, right, I might hit him up and just be like, hey man, like, do you want to get a drink or something like that? I don't know that I would have hit him up beforehand. Hey man, I'm going to this con. Are you going? Like, if you can't afford to go, I'll fly you out or something like that. I don't know that I ever would have done that. But at least, acquaintances, cordial, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so what I said in that first message, that I didn't know you felt that way. And that was in response to him making the statement, in the video that he made, that he felt like I didn't cover enough black superheroes. Which I probably could have been clear, when I was saying that. Yeah, 100%. Like, I had no clue that he felt that way. It wasn't really anything that I think he had ever brought up, not that I can recall. But then after that, I saw that he was like, joining in. People said, "Oh, he follows Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic on Twitter." I saw he was joining in with that, and I was like, I mean, look, I don't advertise these guys. I don't tell people to follow these guys. I don't, but and then that's when I responded. And I was like, and I guess you agree with him, that I'm, a coon as well. And that's when he came back and he was like, "You need to make me understand." And initially, and maybe it was just kind of like I was, emotional at the time, but like initially, it just came across as like really pretentious and really arrogant. Like, why do I need to make you understand, right? Like, why is it my, but at the same time, like I effectively invited the conversation, so I couldn't be mad at the guy for responding. So I was like, okay, take his response for what it is. So then I sent him that video that I made, and then he fired back and he was like, "Nope, I can't, I can't support that." And then he asked me, he was like, "How would you feel if I supported, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy?" And I told him it wouldn't have mattered to me, because number one, I know who you are, and number two, because who you follow in your personal life has no bearing on my life. It doesn't affect me in a meaningful way. And if anything, I would assume that he was following them, because at least to disagree with them, create arguments against them, or something like that. But at the same time, I have the benefit of at least associating with Ernie enough to know that that would be his stance. Again, when it comes to politics, I'm a blank slate for the world. But yeah, when he clapped back and he was like, "You need help," and that kind of stuff, it rubbed me the wrong way because I felt like he was coming off as like this moral arbiter, for how I'm supposed to act and what I'm supposed to do, and that pissed me off. And that's why I was like, "Dude, f off, man." Like, who are you to impose your morality of right and wrong on me? I certainly wouldn't do that to you. But yeah, I mean, having said that, clearly I was emotional and probably could have handled it better, but like
Yeah.
it came off like the whole thing just came off as incredibly pretentious and incredibly arrogant. Now, I don't want to put words in his mouth, and it's not to say that that was his intention. I don't necessarily think that's appropriate, but that's exactly how it felt at the time.
No, I think he was more so, at least from what I saw the video, he was more so defending you at first, and he was like saying, "Yeah, Rob obviously, he doesn't know." But then somebody pointed out in his comments like, "Hey, you made comments about Angel Reese, and that's rooted in racism," which I still don't know. By the way, people have been asking me because that's what I saw, the Angel Reese
Mm.
comments. What? So on this point, I might as well bring it up now. Why don't you like Angel Reese? What's going on there? Is it just
Because
because?
she was acting like an asshole, and she comes off as arrogant.
Okay.
Like she just rubs me as a prick. Like she just rubs me the wrong way. Like she comes off as a prick. So yeah. I mean, it'd be different, I think, if I sent that out and I was like, why is this talented hack or talentless hack even comparing herself, to Caitlin Clark? That I think would be a whole different conversation, or if I spouted off at the mouth, calling her race, or bringing her race up, and in comparison to Caitlin Clark or something along those lines. But no, it was just the idea that honestly, she just rubs me as an asshole, and I
Okay.
don't like that she's an asshole. So
Okay. That's fair. I
yeah.
mean, I can't really. I don't watch a lot of sports. Realistically,
Oh, I
I have
mean, look,
no
look,
clue.
something to understand, right? I mean, if we're like, personality-wise, Angel Reese, yeah, she just rubs me the wrong way. Now, if we're talking about talent, right? If we're talking about, their skill, yeah. I mean, we can sing a song and dance about how much attention Caitlin Clark brought to WNBA, and she brought a lot, but so did Angel Reese, So yeah, it's kind of nuts. I don't know if she brought as much as Caitlin Clark, but I don't know the stats enough to know, what I think I've heard people or seen stats where people have said things like the the TV viewership of WNBA games is higher when Caitlin Clark is playing than when than anybody else. But I don't know. I'm not going to speak to it with any. Yeah, yeah,
Impute me.
I don't know.
Just that's fair. That's valid.
Yeah.
Because that's what I've seen. And from what I saw with the Blur Without Fear video, the main criticisms that I saw were you not championing Black voices during Black History Month, which that's really your prerogative to do whatever you want to do. I said that in my video. It's your prerogative. I'm not really gonna harp on you about that. It was more so the fact of the matter of the aggressiveness in which you retaliated because that felt as it came from a place. And now you're stating. I'm happy you stated this. I thought it came from a place of avoidance, like pure avoidance. It was just a sense of not being belittled as a human being. I just assumed
Oh,
it
like
was, yeah,
how
that's
dare you? How dare you question my views? No, honestly, and I don't know. This is one of the reasons why I like being a centrist moderate, whatever you call it. I like having my views questioned. Like I like it when people come along and they ask, why do you believe that? What makes you think you're right? Right? Like, okay, so it's confirmation bias, and to kind of get philosophical here for a second, you ever heard of the allegory of Plato's cave?
Yeah.
Okay, it's that, right?
Mhm.
It's that idea, right? Convincing myself that the shadows in the cave wall are real. And I do not like that idea. I don't like the idea of sitting down with a group of people who think like I think and believe like I believe, and then just convincing myself that I'm right. Because, of course I'm right. If I wasn't right, these people wouldn't agree with me. It's like, well, all these people that you're surrounded by think the same thing you do. So, and you guys reject any opinion other than the one that you believe in. So, of course you think you're right, right?
No,
You're
you're
objecting
that
to anything that challenges it. Yeah, I don't,
you're
and that's why I say, like,
you're
well,
completely
that's
correct. You're correct about
that.
that assessment when it comes to that because you think like I imagine that is how a centered human has to be. What my brother claimed it is having an androgynous mindset to where you can assess both situations with the masculine view and the feminine view of a situation at all times, no matter what it is, the softness and the hardness of it. And that is a fair mindset to have as a centered human being. That just makes sense to have.
Yeah, I mean, to me, in times like these, I feel like it's the only way to function, right? I mean, like you bring up the idea of masculinity, right? Like I remember having this conversation at one point where it was like the idea of toxic masculinity,
Yeah.
and somebody was like, toxic masculinity is really bad, and I was like, well, how would you define toxic masculinity? And they were like, the traditional hyper male, and I was like, okay, well, let's challenge that notion. I was like, imagine that you're a woman, and he was like, I'm not a woman, and I was like, but imagine you are, and I was like. Right. I want to hear you say you're a woman. But yeah, no, I was like, imagine you're a woman, right? And like you're at home sleeping in your bed, right, with your husband, and you got the kids in the other room, and somebody breaks into your house. What kind of man do you want to be married to? One who's going to run in the closet and hide, or one who's going to go grab the gun and open fire, right? Toxic masculinity has a place. Doesn't always have a place, and it doesn't need to be used to tear other people down, right, or to belittle other people. But those hyper masculine traditional mentalities, there is a place for them contextually. um yeah, nothing really exists in absolutes in that way. But
True.
yeah, to
Yeah,
me,
it's
I think in times like these, when you're talking about political extremism, right, you're talking about people who plant their flag in the sand, right, and say this is what I believe in and I will reject any and all other arguments that disagree with it. uh yeah, that's very problematic. Like that literally leads to civil wars.
you're
Right, so it's a very problematic
I
idea
can
to have.
I completely agree with that. You don't want to be too Magneto or too Xavier. I give you that. So let's do this then. What question that someone wanted me to ask you? Are you open to a question deeper diving into a viewpoint you have before I ask?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
How, how do you feel about the LGBTQ community?
No, I have a sister who's gay. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Why would I have a problem with the LGBTQ community?
Sorry, it's just really funny. I have a friend who's black. I don't have a friendship with black people. That felt very it immediately bringing
No, I
the
mean,
sister.
yeah, I get it. It's like, I mean, I don't, I got black friends, so I can't
Yeah,
be racist.
you just
You can have
immediately.
black friends and be racist. No, okay. I mean, let's talk about that, right? So if
Okay.
when we're, I think when I was younger, when I was very, very younger, I'd say probably back in my 20s, I don't think I really understood it. And I don't think I really sat down and took the time to understand it. But of course, that comes with age. Um, I think there are some people out there in those communities, like you're going to find in any community, who are going to be outwardly hostile, right? Who are going to approach things from a place of cynicism, right? So, um, they meet somebody and that person, asks them questions about what it's like to be a trans person, or what made them want to transition or something like that. If for some reason you decided to ask a question like that in an elevator, I don't really know anybody who would open up a casual question like that. You just turn to a trans person in an elevator. So what made you want to be trans?
So why'd
Right?
you
Like,
chop your
who the
boy
fuck
up,
does that?
Johnson? What's
Yeah,
going on?
yeah, who the fuck does that, right? You have to be some kind of dickhead. But I do recognize that for people who transition, they're finding their real identities, right? And finding your real identity as a person, who you really feel like you should be. I mean, who in the hell would get in the way of that and tell them they're wrong for feeling that way?
And I believe this is what people wanted. real bad from you, like in a direct answer, because that's a very measured and empathetic and human response. And I think people weren't getting that because they had rushed to a wild, vast array of assumptions about your character based off of the Blur Without Fear video, which I'm sure is gonna. That's how I found Blur Without Fear. By the way, I ended up. This is exactly how I found him. It was this.
Well, I mean, okay, so something to understand about Ernie, right? And about my perception of Ernie. I don't have a problem with him. I never really did. I mean, Ernie's channel very much focuses on highlighting black characters, which is good. And honestly, I think he's one of the few in the comic book space that does. Um, so yeah, I think Ernie does a lot of good in the comic book community. I don't know that I agree with his, especially the personal attacks. I don't know if I agree with that. Um, but I do firmly believe. I think truth to tell, I think Ernie's video was made from a place of hurt. To be honest with you, like I think Ernie had a viewpoint of me and what he believed I stood for. Um, and I think that based on that video that I made, uh, that perception of me was shattered. I think he certainly had certain views of me, based on things, based on the fact that Milestone didn't resonate with me on a personal level and different things like that. But I don't really, in my heart of hearts, believe that Ernie thinks I'm actually a racist. Maybe he does. Maybe he really does.
Yeah, I think he thinks
But
you're pandering
you know,
for the white people. I don't know. Because
mm,
a lot of people online, and I have avoided this at all costs, and people hate me for it. A lot of people want you to absolutely vilify somebody so they can feel powerful, so they can feel justified in the hate mob. Destroy Frankenstein, ignore Victor. That is what a lot of people want to do because they don't care about the ideology. They'll assign the entire ideology to a person. So they incited the Uncle Tom mentality onto you. And a lot of people that obviously didn't watch my entire video thought that I was assigning the Uncle Tom mentality to you when I was saying, yo, even if you call him an Uncle Tom, which a lot of actions that are coinciding with Uncle Tom's actions, his entire audience is mostly white people. Like I'd say maybe 70% of his
okay,
audience is
so
white.
that's okay. So that's a funny thing
Go ahead.
that I saw in your video. And
Yes.
and here's something to know. Number one, there's no way to know the answer to that question. As far as I'm aware, YouTube analytics does not break down based on race.
Word.
My analytics break down. Like if you go and look in your
I'm
analytics,
gonna
I'm
check.
not aware that YouTube shows race. Yeah, they show. I can see if you're watching on a Samsung Galaxy or an iPhone. I can see if you're watching on a mobile device or a TV. I can see what country you're in. I can see what state you're in. But I don't think it shows what a person's race is. Hold on a second, getting a call from my finance guy.
No, you're good. Mm, 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 mm,
Which,
mm,
by the way, if I'm going to get like just as an aside, if you're a content creator, get a financial advisor.
I don't. I edit and do all my content stuff myself. Also, I have a bachelor's degree in business technology. I'm pretty okay, but that's my smart advice.
Well, oh yeah, yeah. Get a well, dude. You'd be amazed how many content creators blow like they're a flash in the pan, right? They blow up on the scene. They're the biggest thing in the world, right? They're like, yeah, I'm riding high, and it's $1,000 dinners and all that kind of stuff. And
Oh, I'm
4 years
not.
later, they're
I'm
no
not.
better off than they first started.
I'm not surprised because I've had, oh my god, there's a skit content creator who he came to me. He said, "Well, how much do you make on YouTube?" I said, 5,200 a month." He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I make long videos and I post twice a day." And he said, "Oh man, I make like 2,000." And he had like a million subscribers. And I said, take a sponsor, dude. I don't know what to tell you. What?
He said, "Hold on. He has a million. He has a. How much does he make a day or a month?"
Like 2,000 because he doesn't have sponsors. I know that's crazy, isn't it? Isn't that
That's
insane?
wild. Yeah, like you gotta like you need to build a media kit. Like yeah, you gotta build. Yeah, when you're a content creator, there's certain things you gotta build a media kit. You need to get a financial advisor, potentially a business manager, depending on how big your brand is and whether or not you need one. I mean, there's all like once you transition out of I make videos on the internet and then you turn into this is my business. Yeah, there's a whole lot of things that you got to start doing. But I digress. Yeah.
That's
So,
not it. You're right.
but yeah. So okay, okay. So
They don't show by race, and
no.
I believe more so when I state the claim that most of your audience is white guys, right? And this is a very unfair statement. I've always felt it's a very unfair statement because majority of America is white. And you're not like a black nerd centric thing because you're for most of my life up until not too long ago you have been an anonymous sultry voice, so I just
Well,
listened
that's
to
dude. That's why I say, man. Like, once I calmed down from it all, because I mean, no matter where you are as a content creator, you see people making all these videos about you, right? And saying all these things about you, and just making claims where you're like, I don't even know where they got that from. Like, it rattles you to a degree. Um, but then once that calms down, then you're just kind of like, okay, like, yeah, like the rational mind starts to take over. And once that did, like I was talking to my girl Mariah, and once that did, it was like I sat down with her and I was like, one of the things that I just kind of realized, I am I am like a black hole when it comes to politics. No one knows what I stand for. No one knows what I believe. Like no one really knows, the things that I value and the things that I don't. So yeah, like I just immediately become whatever it is people say I am because there's nothing to the contrary.
That's fair.
So
Well,
it's an interesting, it's an interesting like an interesting way to find out.
I doubt
So
like this video will hit like wildfire. That's not really my goal here.
no,
I imagine that at least the people that want to seek it out will, at least from at least the conversations we're having right now, have a better idea that you are not an a racist, pro-Israel, transphobic, nocturnal mammal Uncle Tom. Like it was like the things I was getting and people were telling me. Someone sent me this message, and I'm gonna read it bar for bar because I'm gonna open up my Discord and read this bar for bar. Hey, thanks for covering the Rob situation. He's always rubbed me the wrong way. Can't really describe it though, but upon seeing your video, I'm justified in my hate of him. I don't know, he's just always been annoying, and now I have justification for my hate. Thank you so much. Love the content, by the way. So I think it's because they viewed you as like tutelary annoying, and then had justification based on my video somehow, which is interesting. Very
yeah,
interesting.
that's just confirmation bias. But yeah, I mean, it's and that's fine. Like I said, it's going to change some people's minds. Some people it's not. Some people have made up their minds. And that's fine. Um, but yeah, it's wild. Like it's kind of nuts. But yeah, so anyway, you said you had questions.
Yeah. So let me go up to the other one here. So just for the
Wait,
record,
did you tell people that you were interviewing me?
yes.
Oh.
Yes. You I Someone messaged me, someone told well, someone commented on my thing, and I was like, oh, I guess I should probably gather some questions since everybody's, talking dogpiling. And they were like, I have questions because I need to know because I love his content, but I can't support him if he's doing this. So just for the record, I'll probably chapter this in here. Thoughts on Trump? Just you can say whatever
Well,
you want.
it's complicated. No, it's not very complicated at all. If that motherfucker died today, dude, if he look, okay, here's a funny thing. Here's a funny thing. I was on Twitter one night, and it was. Do you remember that news article when they said like the Air Force One turned around?
Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody tweeted out, and they said it's happening, y'all, and I was like, I fucking hope so. I hope so. I really hope so. Yeah, no, I don't like Donald Trump at all. I didn't.
Perfect.
Okay, okay. I mean, yeah. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. To your point about the idea being of people being cynical, or not necessarily making a whole lot of sense. I know there's a lot of people that demonize Trump voters, and I think in some ways, rightfully so. Um, I think there were a lot of people who were just like, "Oh, the economy is really, really bad," so we're going to re-elect the guy. Like a lot of people sat down and they said, Donald Trump was president in 2016, and the economy was good. Therefore, the economy was good because he was president. No, presidents inherit economies in arrears, right? So it would be like me hiring you on to a job site, as a department head. And I had to let the last person go, or they retired, or whatever the case was. And I tell you, like, your job is to clean up this department. And in this example, right, you're the president, the department is the economy, right? And the entire department's in a state of disarray, so the economy's in a state of disarray. And then I bring you in. Once I bring you in, I come to you like the next day, and I'm like, why haven't you fixed this? Right? And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, motherfucker, you just hired me. It's like, we got to let you go for gross negligence, man, gross incompetence. I mean, it's just, and that's what happens
I'm
when.
so happy that you brought this up because you are so not an idiot politically. Like you are so smart politically. It's crazy because some people will say, "Well, hold up a second. He didn't. Eggs prices are down. It's been a month." Okay, hear me out. He can't get egg prices down in a month. I don't like Trump, but he can't do this in a month, dude. It's impossible. Yeah, but hold up a
No,
second.
No, but
It's
more so than
crazy.
that, more so than that. Like I know there was the phrase that circulated around for a long time, like it was an open book test. Fuck yeah, it was, right? I mean, on one hand, like, all right, look, I wasn't a big fan of Kamala Harris. Yes, I
Yeah,
participated in the primaries. I was never a big fan of Joe Biden. In 2020, for some reason, we decided to elect a man who was clearly struggling with Alzheimer's and dementia,
he sucks.
because I guess people were like, oh well, he was Barack Obama's vice president. It's like he'll be Obama 2.0. No, he won't either, and he wasn't. But beyond that, when people went to the polls, I think in 2024, and they elected Donald Trump, sure, there were people who did it because like the economy was in dire states. It's like, well, number one, the guy's bankrupted every business he ran. And number two, that is not a good excuse. Like, I would rather deal with a struggling economy than know that I willingly put a criminal in the White House.
A
So
convicted
yeah,
felon. It's
100% I voted for
crazy.
Kamala Harris. But Kamala Harris was by no means my first point. I mean, I know that Biden backed out once he got the nomination.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with how that stuff works? Like primaries,
Yeah, I'm
different things like
aware.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
very
So
versed in
so
politics.
for for those of the guys who were watching this and don't know how elections work, when it comes to voting for the president of the United States, we vote twice. Once during the primaries and once during the general election. The reason for the primaries is because it's basically the Democratic and Republican parties standing up and just saying, show of hands, how many people want to run for president of the United States? And all the people who think they can win and can afford to run, they all go down to a stage. So when you see, right, the road to the White House, right, on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, or whatever, and it's the Democratic primaries, what each one of those Democratic candidates is trying to do is convince Democratic voters to give them the nomination for the Democratic Party for president of the United States. Republicans are doing the same thing. Now, there are exceptions to this rule, right? So you have like incumbent presidents, right? So a president who served a first term and is running for reelection. There's nothing in the Constitution that specifies they get a second term. It's just we all just kind of silently agreed everybody gets a second term, right? And because who the fuck knows why? But so that's an exception. An exception is a candidate who is exceedingly popular, whether you like it or not. Donald Trump was the front runner for the Republican Party,
Yeah, he's
and
very
no,
popular.
yeah, yeah. The alternative was a guy with a worm in his brain. So that just gives you our options. When it came to the Republican Party, but yeah. So what ends up happening is you get to primary election night, and all the Democrats go to the polls and they vote for who they think the Democratic nominee for president should be, and Republicans do the same thing. And then once the primary elections are over, then we're off to the races because now the job or the goal of that Republican candidate is to convince everyone who's not Republican to vote for him. And the goal of the Democrat is to convince everybody who's not Democrat to vote for him. And so then November comes along, we go to the polls, and we say, of these two people, here's the person that I choose to be president of the United States. Going to the primaries is incredibly important, right? I mean, it's kind of a really shitty ad hoc, metaphor, but skipping the primaries is like showing up to Thanksgiving dinner 3 hours late, right? Like,
No, because like you don't
it's
even you
just,
got to choose the guy, man. You got to choose which person you
yeah,
want. It's so important.
yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
I'm very happy that you've made it clear on that front because somehow you've become very adjacent to that. And for this, I'd like to also say another point. I think you've already stated your thoughts on ICE that you don't vibe with them in all capacities because you said that earlier in this little podcast X thing we're doing here.
Dude, let me tell you something about, and I don't look. I say this knowing somebody out there might see it,
I'm excited.
and it might get my attention. Dude, if I'm an ICE agent, I'm living in fear right now because no, dude. And here's the reason. Here's the reason why I say that. Like, it ideally will be dismantled when that time comes. Their identities are out there.
Oh, yes, over. They're cooked.
And yeah, and so if you have some guy who's crazy,
Mm.
and goes after some ICE agent in his family, or former ICE agent in his family, and that former ICE agent is, unalived, at that point it just becomes a homicide. It's just an unsolved homicide out there somewhere.
What,
So if I'm one of those guys, I'm kind of, and it might sound extreme to say that, but honestly, I think it's a honest observation. If I'm one
No,
of those
they
guys,
are they
I'm
are
probably
they are
living
gonna
in
get
fear.
cooked. One of my friends in Detroit, his name is RJ, and I'm not gonna give his
Mhm.
real name, but his name's RJ, and he saw a ICE agent at a bar. He was like, I remember you." He hit him so hard. He hit him so hard that he can't use his left arm anymore.
Wow.
My friend cannot use his fingers are broken. Like he hit him that hard, and the guy his
Wow.
mandible came loosed. Like it just loosed his mandible completely. I was like, oh. That was crazy. He's like, and if I see him again, I'm breaking my right arm too. I was like, what force? What
I mean,
devastating
dude, you
force?
see those, dude, you see those videos all the time where like there was one video I saw where it's like these ICE agents went to a restaurant or a bar or something like that, try to get some food, and people were like, "You're ICE agents, get the fuck out of here." Right? And like they chase them out of the joint. Like they
Yeah,
chase them out of that place, right? So
it's
yeah, no, I
horrifying.
am not a fan. Do people really think I'm like a Trump supporter and like a
Dude,
fan of ICE?
people what people saw the title of my video because I put three titles because I have the option to do A/B testing.
Yeah,
I
the A/B testing, yeah.
Yeah, and I put which one would like garner some clicks. I hope people would at least watch the first 2 minutes of the video.
Well,
But then they were like, Rob is racist? Hold on a second. Rob? The comments that he taught me about the Mogo. I'm like, okay, calm down. Let's,
wow.
uh,
I
I,
didn't know. I knew there were people like people were losing their shit on TikTok. Like I remember hearing about that. They were going fucking nuts, right? They were like, "Is this guy really that racist?" You know, and I always knew it. And it's like, dude, you didn't know shit, right? Like,
yeah, it's been
like
it's been bad.
I don't know what his political stances are, but whatever they are, they're racist. You know, and it's just like,
It's real
okay,
bad, but that's
yeah,
why I've garnered these questions to ask
that's
and
crazy.
figure them out because there's let's see what was the other one. There was I'm trying to find it. That's somebody arguing. Someone say you're just gonna do mental gymnastics. Yada bing bada boom. Where are we at? I think those are the real big ones that really mattered the
That's nuts.
most. Those are because they were really just it was really the I guess for lack of a better term the nocturnal mammal allegations and that variety and because so many people and it's a lot of this is what happened and I'm gonna say this people are gonna hate me for it. It's a lot of niche within a niche people because one you're black and then you're a nerd. So nerds are already a niche, and then black people are a niche within a niche. And if you're black and a nerd, you're already ostracized by the greater confines of the bigger black community, and that already ostracizes you. So those people coagulated into a group, and let's say there are about 2.7 million of them all collectively coming together. So all the issues on whether it be Threads or Twitter or TikTok, all coming together and coalescing into this big hate bubble going towards you because we were so ambiguous with what you were. You pulled a Bruno Mars. You were so racially ambiguous that people couldn't tell that you were actually Peter Hernandez. They didn't know.
I mean, I guess the question I find myself asking is, why do they need to know what my politics are?
It's because you're so big. And I say this as somebody that has had explosive growth in the course of 2 years. I started actually caring about content creation 2 years. I made content for 12 years, and I'm making real content for 2 years. So when I was doing my One Piece videos, when I first went by dog poison and all this stuff, I got like 100,000 subscribers, and I could say whatever the hell I wanted to. I was like, yeah, I think Luffy can stretch his penis around his neck and hang himself. I was just saying whatever would get. I was saying crazy stuff.
That's gonna go viral,
Yeah, 100%. It
right?
did.
That video is gonna go viral.
It went crazy. I was like, Naruto makes clones and he sleeps with Hinata and it's a gangbang every night. I was saying crazy stuff like that. And then I started actually caring about what I said 2 years ago and I started talking about my life and my personal stuff. But then I garnered an audience. And I said something, I made an open letter to the LGBTQ community. I was like, you guys hate each other, dude. This is ridiculous. And somebody actively set me straight. They said, hey, I respect you for getting your opinion out there. That's really important. But this video got really popular. And a lot of gay people are going to see this and are going to hate you for it. And I said, I don't really care if they hate me. And then I started to care they hated me because they're actually listening to me. They're actually listening to me. And when you're talking about comics, people are gonna come for comics. But then I'm pretty sure you made a side channel where you talk about your life, and people that really are dedicated to following that channel, they're gonna care about what you have to say, and they want to like you. People want to
Dude,
like you.
I haven't like that channel's not even active anymore. I don't, dude, I haven't used that channel in like 4 years, four or
I,
5 years.
I don't know.
But
I'm just. That's what I saw.
okay, and let's have that conversation, right?
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of the comic book YouTube scene, how do I see myself? And maybe this is a failing on my part, but I never saw myself as like the biggest comic book YouTuber. I know I am, and I think there's a big difference between recognizing that and leaning into it. Right.
Ah.
Like The Rock had a really good point once, right? One of the things, and I don't even know if this point stands up anymore given everything that happened with Black Adam, but The Rock had a really good point once where he was like, never buy into your own hype, right? Like, never convince yourself. of how great you are based on where you're at. So I recognize that I've been doing this for, I don't know, 13, 14 years or something like that at this point. Like, I recognize I'm an OG, right? I recognize that people will say, when it comes to comic book YouTubers, love him or hate him, Comics Explained is on the Mount Rushmore of comic book YouTubers or
Yeah.
comic book content creators. Like, I recognize sitting down right now, I am the biggest comic book content creator in the world. Like,
Yes.
I understand that. Like, and I recognize that. But I never saw myself that way. And honestly, I think having that mentality is what always kept me grounded. Right, having that mentality, it reminds me like growing up, and just having a car repossessed, right, or you know having to walk to work, for like 2 years, because I couldn't afford a new car. It keeps me grounded with all that kind of stuff.
Well,
And,
here go.
and by no means is that any kind of like a sympathy play or anything. It's simply just to say that I think not hyper focusing on my place within the comic book landscape has kept me from just getting carried away with myself. Now, the downside to that is it leads me to walk away from this idea that people are like, when you say something, a lot of people are going to listen, right? Like, if you come out and you say, Blue Marvel is a better superhero than Captain America, people are going to debate that, right? It's not just yelling, and not screaming into the ether. And conversely, right, if somebody comes along and they say, oh, Comics Explain, he's black, but he's not really one of us because he follows people like that, and the reasons why he does it are irrelevant in the face of the fact that he does. And so, this guy clearly believes what they believe, otherwise he wouldn't follow them. And when there's like nothing, that refutes that on my part, what the fuck are people supposed to believe?
Yeah, yeah.
So
The biggest, because we could talk about let me think, Comic Drake, Dope Spill Comics, I think Variant Comics. We could talk about those guys, and you are effectively the I show speed of comic YouTube.
dude,
And
let me tell you something, man. I wish I had fucking iShow speeds. Actually, no, I take that back. I don't know if I'd want to
probably
live the
not,
life of iShow. I don't
probably
know if I'd
not.
want to be iShow speed. Like, I mean, speed is cool, right? The things he does are really awesome. Like, dude, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I had never looked deeply into like various African cities, right? I mean, I knew they weren't like huts in the desert somewhere, right? Out in the jungle. Like, I knew that's not the case, right? I knew
Yeah.
like they were cities and they have culture and stuff like that. But being able to picture it in my head didn't exist until like he made his video. And then I'm able to put like faces, to people, and I'm
What
able to like see the kind of things they celebrate,
this
and so
goes
on,
into
right?
earlier when you were saying that people don't dive deeper into something and they base off of analysis, stuff of that variety. People will have their own opinions. I was born in Africa, mind you. I'm from Egypt. Like I was born in
Yeah.
Egypt, and my dad's from St. Lucia, and my mother is Arabic, and I grew up around the corner from a KFC in Africa. So like I would just go to the KFC, and there was these beautiful cities. They were talking about putting fiber lines, and Africa has the biggest fiber optics network in the world. It has the
Bro,
biggest.
didn't they launch didn't like didn't isn't doesn't Africa have like its own telecommunication system now?
Yes, yes. We're
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we're
it's insane. It's
huge.
insane.
We're
Yeah, it's
huge,
insane.
dude. That's
But
why I moved to
that's
Detroit.
why I say like, yeah, that's why I say like, I wasn't operating under the idea that like, uh, Africa is like the Jungle Book, right? That's clearly not the case. But
Mowgli.
I didn't, like I had done enough to like in the past to like look at because I remember my brother and his wife, were like, we're gonna go to Ghana, like we're gonna take a trip to Ghana, and this was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and I was like, I've never looked that place up. I wonder what that place looks like. And so I remember like firing up YouTube videos. And what actually really led me down that path of looking up videos on what other cities looked like is there was this video that happened to stumble across my feed on YouTube where the title was like what Tehran really looks like. Because when I thought of Tehran at the time, I thought of just like a war-torn Middle Eastern territory in Iran, right? And yeah, it's what I thought of, right? And I was like, well, shit. I mean, let's see if that's actually what it is. And then I pulled out the video and I was like, dude, this place looks amazing. Right? It looked really, really cool. There's actually a really cool channel. You ever get a chance? There's a really cool channel. I can't remember what his name is, but it's this guy who travels around the world and teaches people the customs of like those different countries. right? Where he's like, if you're going to come here, know that this is how you interact with people, right? Like this is why people stand this close to you, right? This is how you talk to them. These are the kind of things you should say, the things you shouldn't say, right? This is what, like, if you're going to do a hand gesture, don't do this one, right? Like, don't give them a thumbs up because that's like telling them fuck you, like, don't do that kind of shit. I can't remember what the name of the channel is, but it was really cool. I was on like a travel kick for a period of time, so I was looking up, all these places to travel
It's
to
I've
and how to
always
act. But
I've found the American mindset behind most things to be just vastly interesting. First off, English is not my first language, right? And it took me a
no,
while to get to this point of speaking. Hence why a lot of people think I sound Caucasian when I speak. I've gotten to this point.
I didn't know that black people were supposed to sound a certain way when you
I know
speak. Like I
we're
didn't know
supposed to
that.
have we're supposed to speak in Ebonics all the time. Didn't you know? You don't know the lore. See, this is why they got the Uncle Tom allegation. You don't know the lore. You ain't following the franchise. But
Uh,
that's the entire factor. Because I've sadly traveled the world, and I did it when I was homeless. I was couch hopping around the world, and I didn't know the American mindset. Didn't know the world was much bigger than what it is. I didn't know. I had no clue that people just only existed within their little bubble, and I think that's a lot of the hate you're gonna get for this until this video comes out, which will probably come out. I don't know, later today maybe. I'm pretty good at editing. So it's a lot of people that are gonna come at you with this nonsense, and not having the mindset of somebody that is at the ethos, the Dragon Ball Z of comic book YouTube is what you are, right? And people are looking at you, and it's effectively people would always be punching up. So whenever you combat somebody, when you say fuck off to Blurred, who only has 120,000 subscribers, it's gonna look like objective punching down. They're obviously gonna support the
See,
underdog.
all right, look, here's the thing,
Go
man.
ahead.
I don't really give a shit about follower counts.
I'm aware, yeah.
Dude, I've gone on the podcast with people that have 300 subscribers. Right. I don't really give a shit about follower counts. Like that is as irrelevant to me as the sunrise. And it's okay. So understand something. When I first became a content creator, there were like a few rules that I laid out for myself on how I would interact with other content creators. Like number one, I wouldn't give a shit about people's follower counts. Right, like that would be because before I became a YouTuber, I was a huge fan of the Call of Duty space, right? And the Call of Duty space back then, right? Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2 to a degree before I think it stopped being the space that I fell in love with back then.
Yeah.
That you would have these kind of like groups, right? And nobody would work with you unless you were like equivalent to their size or bigger, and they could like grow off of you or something like that. And oftentimes it was like, but I mean, they seem like really cool people though. So why don't you just make a video with them? And that was one of that was when I kind of made the promise that like follower counts don't really matter to me, right? It's not really relevant to me, like sometimes I'll just go on a podcast kick, right? I'll just be like, I'm gonna do podcasts for like the next 3 months, right? And I'll just like jump onto all these different podcasts over time, and then just not do it again for like 4 years. So yeah,
That's a I think that's a very objectively healthy mindset to have. That is an objectively
yeah.
healthy mindset to not let the hubris of the number cloud who you are as a person. And it's a mindset that I my father imbued that in me. That to not exactly what you said. My dad said that because he said you used to be just like them. I'm like, you're right. I was worthless, and now I'm not. You're right. I should also speak to these. Crazy
Yeah.
statement, but I understand that. That's a very fair mindset. So
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the idea. Like that doesn't sit well with me. The idea that like black people are supposed to like walk and talk and act a certain way. Because to me, that's just a stereotype. Now, it may be a stereotype you agree with, not you
I
specifically,
was
but it
saying,
may be
I
a
was saying,
stereotype that yeah, it might be a stereotype that people agree with, but it's a stereotype nonetheless, right?
yeah.
Like I don't know if I agree with that.
No, that's completely valid. That's 100% understandable.
Yeah.
And I think I've gotten everything that I've objectively, needed essentially from my answers for getting how you are as a person, which is nice because, and I would like to say, this guy's not crazy. I should probably look at people more so because I didn't even know you were black, man. I didn't know. A few people didn't know. I had no clue. I had no clue, man. No one
Yeah, I mean,
knew.
I'm not an AI channel, but I'm a faceless YouTube channel.
Yeah,
So yeah, I don't know. It's not really about me. Like it's about the comics I cover. But
that's
but
completely
yeah, that's
understandable.
that's 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 why I say, like once I got outside of my feelings, I was able to understand why it was that so many people were. I mean, there were clearly like there were definitely people, who despised me, right, and who were just like, "Yep, I always hated that guy," and now I have something to point to, right, to justify why I need to hate that guy. And I think that there were people, who just legitimately wanted to understand, where I stood. Um, I don't know what the ratio is, and I'm not going to speculate
Oh, I
here,
know the
but
ratio
yeah.
exactly. Um, I know the exact ratio actually because this is my job. I make sure to get everything up. So about 70% of people agree with you, and 30% of people were very vocal. But that is obviously the minority. So the vocal minority overtook everything. Me and my wife did the math yesterday.
Yeah, the vocal minority, that usually happens. Like there's always, it's 500 people trying to sound like 5,000, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. It is what it is. Yeah.
But I
But
want I want to say
yes.
thank you for coming on and giving your thoughts and expressing how you are as a person. I'm happy that people know that I know you enjoy being ambiguous when it comes to your blank slate of politics and things of that variety. But I'm glad you at least cleared up where you're at politically and things of that variety and how you are.
It's still, I mean, it still astounds me. People thought I was a Trump supporter. I mean, I don't fault them, right? I mean, I'm a blank slate. Like there's no way they could have known, but it just, yeah, it's just wild to me. People thought I was a Trump supporter.
It's
That'll be the
that
dude. That'll be the fucking day that I
That's
become a Trump supporter.
I think it's
Yeah.
literally because you followed those two people. It's literally it. That's the biggest point.
Wow.
That's the biggest point. It's the biggest thing that
I
came
don't
up.
know. I thought when I said that I did not like them and I did not respect them, I thought that was enough to get the point across that like
No,
I don't
because you
agree with their
followed them.
viewpoints.
You see, you followed them. That's the thing. You see, because you followed them, they're your best friends. You messed up, and because you're the biggest content creator, man. Because you're so big, if you follow somebody that has less subscribers, that obviously means you know them. That's what it is. That's what happens, and you're endorsing them because now you're in the same
Mm.
circles. So that's the mind track that follows. I was following. Oh my god, this is gonna sound psychotic. I was following Charlie Kirk because I was like, "Who is Charlie Kirk?" And I went to his page and it automatically followed for me. I don't know why it did that, but it did. And I was following him for like 3 weeks, and somebody said, "Oh, this man that's darker than under the bed is following Charlie Kirk." I was like, "Who is that? What dark under the bed? That's a great insult, but who is this?" And I didn't know. I had to unfollow him. I
That is
was
a
like,
pretty unique insult.
it's pretty
Yeah.
good. I was like, that's official. I like that a lot. It's caught
Wow.
me off guard. I didn't know. I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, yeah, like, yeah, that's wild to me. Like, I don't know. I never operated under the idea that people only follow the opinions of people they like. You know,
You didn't
like
know that?
I never. Oh no, no, I know there are people. I know there are people who think that way. Like I know there are people who operate that way. But I never. I mean, for me, that never crossed my mind. Like I only follow people I like. Yeah, like I mean, because like I said, I mean, I'm coming from a place where it's like, okay, well, let's watch Fox News and let's watch CNN and figure out what the two are saying because no one's ever really biased. I mean, I guess I mean there are websites you can go to that will give you like lists like ABC News is pretty unbiased, but everyone leans to one side or the other in some capacity. It's impossible for people to be completely
Oh,
unbiased, right?
100%. Even to their detriment at
Yeah,
points. Yeah.
yeah, even to their detriment, right? And so it's to me, it was no different than watching like two conflicting news stations. What's up? You bouncing out of here? Oh, where is the key? Hold on one second.
Take your time. Hello, all. We gotten a lot of answers here today, so I appreciate you guys. So this is good. This is good. And if you guys want to insult me for, apparent, I feel like people are gonna say I'm fence sitting, but I'm really just trying to be an interviewer and ask questions and not harp on hate and anger right now, because we don't get progress that way. We wouldn't have gotten as many answers and more clear, deliberate things without getting to this point, which is fair. I feel like the black community still is gonna have this distaste of Rob though, so that's gonna be fair. That's understandable. Don't really have much on that one. So yeah.
Okay.
All good? All good?
Yeah, my girl's taking off to hang out with my sister today. So
Completely understandable. My
yeah,
wife went to go get me coffee and she drank my coffee. So that's where we're at right now.
good luck. Yeah.
That's like, I told her I don't want coffee. She said, "I'll get you one," and I said, "Fine, that's understandable. I haven't drank coffee in 10 years." But
Yeah.
what I'm gonna do now is make my other videos because I have 5 videos to make today.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know it's hellish. I gotta stay on the content grind. It's my job, sadly. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you have a lovely and fantastic day, my friends. Anything you want to say before you get out of here?
No, I mean, I think I'm good. I think I said it all. So
All right, solid. Thank you so much. Peace.
later.
I'm your Nick and Night, be my Laurel, slow. Ooh, happy to try what you need. Your world, I love to live in it. Ooh, I love the ride when you're free.